And the we behind the I, that's one of my number one things when working with people is we can't hire the we. Like that's not what you're there for. And so I've even had clients who have been told by the hiring managers who are telling them no, is we just weren't sure. It's funny because they use the we language. We just weren't sure what you were contributing in solving any of these problems. Like they spent hours and then they just had no idea what you uniquely contributed. So it's really important to break that out, particularly in interviews. Okay, let's do quick introductions for the people who are going to be presenting today, which would be myself. My name is Will. I'm a career coach for product managers and for teaching people how to use AI and doing their jobs, whether it's in product or other places. And BJ is joining me today. BJ, you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm a senior director, product turned product coach. So I've been coaching product managers for the last 2.5 years. I've coached over 400 PMs in that time, and happy to be here. Yeah, so the whole goal is as product coaches, we want you to use AI. And that sounds backwards a little bit, but I want to explain exactly where the benefits are and where the pitfalls are. So this isn't a replacement for a human, not yet. Maybe we'll get there soon, but we're not there yet. But it is a super helpful tool. And even when I'm coaching product managers, I'm recommending that they do reps using AI. And let me walk through the specific differences of where I think it's particularly valuable. Most of the PMs that I work with simply haven't practiced their stories enough. And so they fall into some common pitfalls that Will and I are going to walk through today. But some good examples are they say we too much instead of saying I and owning the results.
Oh,
Or they might even
sorry. Keep going.
ramble on too long or not go deep enough in their story. These are excellent things that AI is very good at catching. And what you need is to put in those reps and have a rubric that it can hold you to. And if you define those things clearly, AI can be exceptional. Where AI is not good at yet today is your executive presence, how you look on screen, your tone, your pacing, whether or not you rambled on too long. Uh, those are some of the pieces that can impact your performance. And we want to talk about the differences and there's value, but don't go to your friend or that one senior leader you have ill prepared. Run reps first with AI, nail the fundamentals, then go to that person so that you're not burning out people with bad first round mock interviews. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think one of the things that I've seen people do is they think that they've thought through their answers in their head, but they've never spoken them out. And it's once they start to do that, they realize that what was in their head was a bit vague. Maybe they haven't written it out, they haven't ever said it out loud. And then when they do say it, they fumble over it. And so getting through some of those repetitions and fixing some of those things, which are pretty straightforward to fix, super helpful. Here are a couple other things that we kind of talked about. The reality is that good coaching is real money. Like some of you have worked with coaches, you know that it is not something to get a good one. It's not free. It takes time. They develop those skills. BJ and I worked at this for a long time. We do this service. It's not what you it's not your free version of ChatGPT. The other thing with friends, and I love asking friends to help out on things. The reality is that very few friends are able to have the hard conversations and tell you that was a really bad answer, and I would never hire you if you gave it. And so that's an important thing to recognize is that you can be overly confident that your answer was good if you're going with your friends. And then the other is the consequence of using your interviews that are actually for a real job as practice. The consequences are high in a market where those interviews, you really want them to work because there's just not as many of them as you'd like to have. Make sure that you're ready when you get into there. So that's what this is for. Cool. All right. So let's look into how do we use the tool. So a lot of you have already used AI to do this, and you've already found that getting AI to interview is not that difficult, which is great. What I have found is that the quality of the feedback you get and the structure of that interview is really determined by the prompt and the rubric that you give it, not the ability to get Claude or ChatGPT or any other tool to ask you questions. Um, and so that's what we want to focus on. Today, the big piece of this is the structure of how you think about the rubric to improve the interview experience. and then how you can use it as part of your discipline of this. So when one of the things to think about is that a rubric, if you think about this in the broader product space, particularly in the AI product space, a lot of you have probably heard and been learning about evals and how they play in. And a rubric is just an eval. It's a way of evaluating the responses that you got. This just happens to be an AI evaluating you. And so one of the ways to create this is a rubric that is less of this scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 in terms of a rating. So much of the research has found that when you give AI a request or a request to score something, it often gets stuck in the muddy middle that doesn't tell you much of anything. I also think that when it gives you a number, one of the things psychologically is the level of precision often makes people believe that there's also accuracy, and they're not the same thing. So if you get a 4.5 out of 5, you feel like, well, wow, it really knows what it's doing, or not, right? It's not actually necessarily accurate just because it gave you something to a decimal place. So here with pass and fail, by making it a very clear path in evals, when you're starting out the evaluation piece, having something that is very clear in or out, the models do a much better job at being clear as to why it was in or why it was out. If you find that you're like, well, I think this was actually in, then maybe there's an element in the rubric that needs to change, but at least you now know exactly where to go and what things you could potentially do to fix it. So that's my recommendation when you're looking at your rubric, is having this binary element to some of your pieces, interviews.
I can tell every product manager on this call, you are probably falling into the we trap. We all have been trained to share the success with the team, and I think that's a good practice in the role. But in the interview, it's killing you, specifically around the strategy piece. So it's 100% okay to say, I worked with engineering, I worked with design, and we did this type of research. But when it comes to the strategy specifically, you must own it. I built the strategy. It's also okay to, if you're a product leader, to say, I tasked the team to go execute. That's also fine. But saying we did all of these things means that I would have to hire your entire team to get the same type of impact. The other one that is a constant problem is the rambling setup. And I see this take place in two. One is taking 3 minutes to set up your story, or the other one that really hurts people is in your elevator pitch. So for my elevator pitch recommendation, I coach on a 30-second elevator pitch. Get directly to the meat right before and jump right into your intro. But a lot of people will walk through their resume because that's the question they got. And they're like, well, back in B school 20 years ago, here's where I started. And that's not actually what people want to hear. They want to know, why should I hire you for the role?
Okay. So when we think about a good rubric, there's things that are pass and fail. There's attributes that I want you to keep in mind. And it's worth you all practicing this on some of your own situations to think through this. Is what is observable, meaning like, is there something specific that you are stating? Is it binary? It's either in or it's out. There's if 5 different people could look at it and look at the output, would they score it the same? And is there a lot of ambiguity in there? Then that's probably not the best rubric line. And that there's some evidence for this in the sense of like, there's proof that you accomplished the thing that you're saying. So these are some of the things that make a rubric land well. And if you're getting results back that you feel are wishy-washy or flopping back and forth, it may be your answer. It also could be your rubric because it's not able to tell you what's right or wrong in your answer. So look in both of those places. But now the build time. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to log into a ChatGPT account, whether it's free or paid. It's okay. This is not about the tool. The rubric is the most important piece. The reason that I'm using ChatGPT is because their recent update to their advanced audio is pretty impressive. It actually even has like this with the like multiplex voice, so you can have more interrupts back and forth. It can respond as opposed to like you can interrupt it. It can. So it's pretty interesting. It's getting to a place where I think you should be able to do some good reps with it. On the free plan, you should be able to do about 15 minutes of voice per day, maybe a bit more. It depends on how long they are. And with ChatGPT, you can also throw in text, or you can mix in text. You can drop in your resume, you can drop in a job description, and then turn it into the audio. So let's do the build piece. If you are not at a computer to do this, then we're going to hang out for 3 minutes. If you are at a computer, obviously you're at a computer because on Zoom, but in a place where you can actually do this, you don't need to worry about the desktop app. Just go to chatgpt.com. Okay, so where we are now is not there, here. Okay, good. So it looks like we got enough people done. We're going to move past this. Everyone's sort of set up. Now you're going to paste the rubric into your project's instructions. And down to like the role. And then if you want to add the additional, like what looks good and bad, you can also copy this other section. And you'll just put it into the project settings under this instruction set. You're going to copy it directly in here. Okay. And then after you've made changes, so if I hit enter, there'll be a save button down here. Make sure you save it so that it has that information. And then every new chat that you start with it will have those instructions as its initial system prompt. If you're used to Claude, it's like the Claude.md. If you're used to, I mean, here it's the same thing if you do it in projects. But yeah, so everyone good with that. So you have the document here. One of the things that I found today when I was testing, guys, I haven't had this problem before, but I was retesting today to make sure everything's kind of going there, is when I put the calibration ideas into the sources, because I put them in here, when I was talking with the voice agent and I was asking it, could it review the rubric companion text? It was telling me it didn't have access to it and it was not using them. Which was frustrating me because in a lot of times when the text, it has no problem referencing those files, but for whatever reason in the voice agent, it wasn't doing that. So if you just change it into the instruction set, then it does get it because the voice agent I confirmed is getting all of the details in the instruction set. So if you update those and start a new chat, it will get them there. And my interviewing prep will do really poorly because I don't have an idea in mind. But let's just go ahead and I'm going to start voice. So this is it. I don't have anything. I haven't loaded it up. It's just the instructions. And I think it's turned off voice isolation. So that part's good. So, hi, I'm Will. I'm ready to practice an interview, but I want to tell you a little bit about the role first.
Sure thing, Will. Tell me the role, the level, and the company you've got in mind, and we'll make this mock interview as realistic as possible. If you'd like me to consider your resume, you can upload it, but we can also just dive in. Once you're ready, I'll kick off the first question.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you my profile from LinkedIn is what I'm submitting to you now.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, before we begin the mock interview, could you tell me what role, level, and company you're specifically aiming for today? Once I know that, I'll jump right into the first question.
Okay. Well, the group that I'm presenting for also had the idea of like mocking out with a particular person. So I'm going to give you a profile of Monleo, who is a friend of mine, who's also a great product leader. I would like for you to simulate being asking questions as if you were Monleo or in the similar type role.
All right, I've got Monleo's profile in mind. Seasoned product leader, strong in design and user experience. I'll channel that. Are you ready to jump into the first question now?
Yeah, let's do this at a VP of product level role for with a primary focus on helping product organizations become more AI native.
Perfect. Let's dive in. As if I were evaluating you for a VP of product role focused on AI native transformation, tell me about a product initiative where you directly drove an outcome that significantly changed business metrics. Start with the result.
Oh crap, I'm not ready for that question. Let's see how it responds. Um, Maybe I should take a minute.
No worries. Take a breath. I'm here when you're ready. Just let me know when you want to give it a go, and we'll jump right back in.
Okay. So there you go. There's like a live example of how this would go. And then eventually, the way that it's sort of set up right now is it's going to go through a question and typically will do a follow-up question and then it'll ask a couple of other questions in that path to get to you to about a 7 to 10 minute interview. And then it will go through giving you answer by answer feedback. And so it will then, okay, for your first answer, the question was this, here's what you said, here's the feedback on it. And against the rubric, it would score it. So if I look back to one that I ran, and where it gave scores, it told me on this question here, for your first answer, from going from 0 to 1 business, results first, pass, ownership, pass, stakes, passed, tight setup, pass. So it gave me details against my rubric. So the more expansive your rubric, the more it's going to get. Mary, your question, do you have to get the pro or max plan to do this for hours? I think so. Like I tried this on my free account and I didn't go until the limit ran out, but I believe it's about 15 minutes of voice per day. So if you wanted to just get some reps, 15 minutes a day is great. That's awesome. If you're on the pro plan, like the $20 plan, I think you get a fair amount. I don't know how much you get at each level because it's a little bit token based, so I don't have an exact number. And then the question of could you do this in Claude or Gemini? I think that the voice agent in Claude is as much, and by the way, I'm a huge Anthropic fan. I use Claude. It's definitely the one I spend the most money on. So I invest heavily in Claude and Claude Code. I think their voice agent stinks. I think it doesn't feel like it's very conversational. I don't like it. I haven't used it in a while, so maybe it's gotten better, but I've just been underwhelmed by it on their desktop, on their mobile, and any of their tools. So give.
Yeah, absolutely. Some best practices here are you want to try to, just like Will talked about, having some of the binary pass fails, and he gave some examples in the rubric. If you want to take us back to the instructions, Will, we can dive in here. There's some specific examples, like the ones that we'll put in the guide are like results first, having ownership, some of those specific pieces. One best practice I would recommend when you do this is focus on one area. So don't let AI do the diagnosing. This is where a human is better, but do the reps with AI and focus on a specific thing and nail that. So a good example would be pretty much everybody on this call, myself included, we're going to use we too much. So put that in this rubric and have it be the only instruction and say, focus specifically on this and give me a pass fail and call out the specific times where I used we when I should have used I. And then run through your interview and keep practicing and do the reps with AI until you've nailed that piece. Then bring in the next piece and say, all right, now I want to focus on results first and rep that specific piece. And it's okay to give it instructions to rep even a smaller segment. So the question was, hey, walk me through a whole product story. You can also put in your instructions here. I just want to rep the situation piece. I just want to run through the first piece because I find myself rambling. And so you can modify this script and specifically say, I'm just going to continue to run reps on that first piece to make sure I'm not rambling in my opening and giving too much context. And I want you to evaluate based on these criteria. So good best practice would be focus on one area or even one segment.
No, no, and we're actually going to step into that exact part with a little bit more detail because one of the things that having done this for quite a while, I didn't start this way. BJ and I have talked about this a lot, and what he was just mentioning, the idea of drilling this. What's kind of the aha moment, it feels like common sense that I've seen it, but I didn't see it beforehand, is that if you think about people who practice going through these conversations and really figuring out what works and what doesn't, you can look at salespeople. And what you'll find from a sales coach is they will drill portions of the script. They don't let them run through the whole thing. They drill parts that work. And when you get it right, when it's the right words, the right phrasing, the right response, the right timing, the right body language, all of those things, when you're doing a live coaching with a salesperson, they are repping on those things. There's no reason that for an interview where we're trying to sell ourselves to land a position, to convince them that we're the low risk choice and the best option for their outcomes. It's very similar. So this is why I think breaking it down into the drill is really valuable. One of the greatest ways that I've seen of getting over the fear and or the imposter syndrome of I'm not very good at this is to do it so many times that you do deliver it well, that you are confident. It's no longer lip service, it's earned because you've practiced it, that you've delivered it, and it's happened over and over again. And so doing these micro moments, I think, are really valuable. And AI can be really helpful for that because it won't get tired of asking you the same thing. Your spouse or your friend might get tired of hearing the same answer 20 times. For your question of could you add this in the voice? I don't see why you couldn't give it more details. One of the things that you can absolutely do, like I can just try this real quick. Let's test it out, right?
I mean, it sounded like you could use your other system. You know, you
You
could.
totally could.
I could use I could use the other system to output. Say, hey, do the research on that. Like, hey, I have a, I create a Claude project that does research on a particular company.
Mm-hmm.
Output something that could be, construe in in an MD file what the rubric is for that company, and then
Mm-hmm.
I can import that into this system that we just built in ChatGPT.
Yeah. So like, let me just try this real quick.
Okay, cool.
Hey, I'm thinking about interviewing for a product role at Meta, and I'd want you to. I know that they early do product sense as a very early stage interview. I want your first question for me to be a product sense type question, and you might need to adapt the rubric for it based on what you know about what a good product sense interview looks like. Are you ready to do that?
All set. I'm going to run a product sense question like Meta might. No hints, no coaching until the end. My name's Leo, by the way. Are you ready to dive into the first question?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Imagine you're working on Facebook groups. You've noticed engagement has been flat over the past 6 months. What product change would you explore to increase engagement?
Already using AI tools. One of the things that I would suggest, and I do this frequently with kind of AI tools that I use for lots of different things, is pit them against each other. So if you were to take your transcript and the feedback you got, ask ChatGPT to adversarially evaluate the feedback and what you did and what the feedback you got was. Is it good? Is it cited based on meaningful research? Is there actual evidence that this is actionable advice that is going to help you succeed? I would actually do that against not just different models within the same provider, but against different providers. So I'll often run Claude against OpenAI. I'll run Gemini against other pieces. And when a couple of them are independently identifying a pattern that one of them is wrong, there's a really good chance that the thing that they identified is really an issue. So that's one way, is to like adversarially and give it a prompt of saying, I want you to adversarially review this. I want you to rip this apart and make sure that there's proof point that these are actually good suggestions before I take them. And I would say anytime you're using a new tool or been using it for a while, I think it's fair to run that check again. And anytime there's new updates as well, because we know how often these providers provide updates to their models.
One piece I might add is that AI is inherently not amazing at the diagnosis, but excels at the specific rubric. So I would say a good thing to do would be do a mock with a peer, get feedback from them, and then use that as your tailored drill. Like build a rubric that is binary. Did I say this too many times? Did I not do this? Was I qualifying my results? And then drill that hard. Then go do another rep with the human, get that, and come back, and then drill those again. But narrowing the scope decreases your likelihood of like overall drift. If you just are drilling one particular skill, this is where AI can be really good. It's off. So most interviews are evaluated based on warmth and competence, which basically means, could I imagine myself working with this person? And do I actually think they can do the job? Some pieces where you should use AI, all of the reps, all of the evaluations we talked through today, use it, do it. I recommend it with every person that I coach. When I am doing mock interviews, and I literally did some this morning, the things I'm focusing on are executive presence. Is this person talking at the right altitude? Do they have the right story arc? Are they getting too in the weeds? Pacing. Are you talking too fast? Most interviews are supposed to be down at around 120 words a minute. Most of us are up at 150 to 180 when we're communicating. Tone. Your tone matters a lot. If I end my statement and I go up in my tone, it sounds like a question. And it's easy to fall into little tone traps. My facial expressions, when I talk about my results and I say I'm really excited, I'm really proud, am I smiling? It sounds stupid, but it makes your story believable. Your appearance, your background, whether you look disheveled and your background is a disaster and you have dirty dishes behind you, that actually.
In ways. The other thing is their profile, the way they talk about their work is often the way that they view the world. And this is one of these patterns that AI is quite good at interpreting as what type of questions will people ask. I coached someone and we were doing sort of, it was more of an executive level. We were going through what is a COO going to look like, or going to ask, and what is the CEO going to look like, and ask. And we looked through their profiles. And in part of our coaching, we were going through is, yes, it's the role, but if you also looked at how they talked about it, the COO was always about leveling up systems, improving operational excellence, and caring the most about bottom line. And everything in the CEO's career path was visionary, monumental, step function changes. And if you talk to them about operational, they were likely going to like just check out. And so we went through that. They ran that interview. They came back and they were like, that was exactly the way the interview went. And that really helped them navigate that. And so there are elements of understanding the psychology of people, because that's really who we're interacting with. And it's really hard for people to not leak out a lot of their intentions in the way that they communicate. So leverage that as best you can and have AI help you find some of those patterns. All right. Everyone, go forth and be awesome. And we'll see you next time. Feel